The merc with the mouth misses his mobility. Here's your look at the Diamond Select Deadpool Resin Bust. When it comes to the merc with a mouth, with great power comes no responsibility. Wade Wilson was born in Canada, but grew up to become the least Canadian person ever. The ever-quipping mercenary's healing factor and big mouth make him one of the most relentlessly wisecracking heroes in the universe. Deadpool is called the regenerating degenerate for a reason, and that reason is that he's a regenerating degenerate. He possesses a healing factor that allows him to recover from grave injuries and regenerate body parts. This resin bust of Deadpool is based on his appearance in Marvel Comics, is limited to only 3,000 pieces, and comes with a numbered certificate of authenticity. There'll be more merc in a moment. First, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select, who did take the time and provide this sample of the Deadpool resin bust that we can have a look at in this video. Grabbing the tape measure just to show you guys how tall the statue stands. Careful of those blades. They are removable. They are something that has to be installed, but they are something that can be broken if you're not too careful. The statue bust of Deadpool, though, stands about 5¼ inches in height, or it's going to be roughly about 13.5 centimeters tall. To come included with Deadpool, you do get yourself a certificate of authenticity. This number you'll see down below will also match the number that's printed on the bottom of the base, which so happens in this case to be 1421 out of 3,000. Yes, this statue is limited to only 3,000 worldwide. It is to tell you that this is an authentic Diamond Select release. It's a resin bust, and down below that it's designed by Nelson X. Asensio and sculpted by Juan Pitlick. Nothing on the back, though. It's just completely blank. But it is, though, the same number, as already mentioned, on the bottom of the base. Carefully picking it up, as you can see, printed underneath, Marvel Deadpool Resin Bust. Limited edition number, again, 1421. I wasn't making it up, after all. Out of 3,000. And then just off to the corners of those, you have some rubberized feet. I've mentioned in the past, not only is it good to prevent scratching on surfaces, but it also lifts the statue base up enough that if you are sliding it around, I hope to think that you're not going to be that person that's sliding statues around too much, that you're not going to be wearing off indirectly the printed number that's on the underside. Because, of course, if you ever decide down the road that you want to be selling this, someone obviously is going to be looking for that number on the bottom of their base. First off, one thing I can tell you about the Deadpool resin bust that I like is the fact that the hands and the katanas are separate pieces. I can't tell you how many times I've actually gotten a resin bust out of packaging, and there has been things that, like, if you're not too careful, especially when they're contained inside of a baggie, you remove that bag, and if something like a sword or a knife gets snagged against that, it can break right away, and then you'd be quite sad. Deadpool would certainly sit pretty high on that list of breakable things on it, especially for the fact that the katana blades are as long and narrow as they are. They're softer. They're not made of what I'm guessing to be resin. They're more of plastic, I guess, but still something that if you're not too careful could definitely be broken. So you can only imagine that if this was already attached to his arms, which I'll do more in a second, taking this out of the packaging, and of course then removing the plastic baggie, most susceptible to breaking. The neat thing about these, not only is the fact that they've painted a handle in the guard nicely for the katanas. There's a little bit of red bleed there, unfortunately, on the guard of one of mine, but other than that, a nice looking sword. But the good thing about this is it also attaches via magnets. These come separate in the styrofoam trays you already saw at the beginning of the review. And again, just short of knowing which side, which hand goes on which side of his body is about the only thing you have to struggle with when getting this attached to the statue. Of course, picking it up right now, being the fact that there is magnets rooted on the inside of the hand and then, of course, attached to the end of the forearm, just going to go ahead and attach the hand like this. And I guess you could technically twist it just a little bit if you want a little bit extra mileage. I prefer myself to have the katana a little bit more closer to the actual hilt on the back here, so at least when he's drawing out the sword, there's just one little fracture point right there. Yeah, you already see it. When he is drawing, of course, the sword's out, then, of course, it looks like it's a little bit more close to his body. Then again, we'll go ahead and take the other hand and just, again, attach it. You see how strong those magnets were attaching in place. We can draw already one attention to the problem I have with this one statue. While there wasn't an issue necessarily with the katana blades, there is certainly an issue, though, with the back scabbards, or the holsters for his swords. One of them does have a fracture line right there. You can already see it. Being the fact that these weren't something that you could attach afterwards. These were already in the tray. and then just removing it. I think they were already cracked. This one was already cracked the time I took it out, already out of its styrofoam tray. I didn't do that myself. Again, it doesn't look like it's necessarily going to be breaking off, but you can clearly see, though, the way they've got that, it's angled too close to the body. I mean, it really should have a space like this, and I don't know, maybe when it was put inside the tray, too much pressure was put against it, and again, one of those, the holsters, bent too much into the body, and hasn't snapped off yet, but it definitely will be snapping if I'm not too careful. I'm wondering why they didn't follow the same suit as what they did with the katanas. I mean, after all, if these hands are something that would be attached via magnets, why couldn't they have done the exact same thing here on the back for this holster for his swords? Simply just have this as a magnet piece too. This would have just attached onto the back of his torso via the magnets, and you wouldn't have never had the worry of this actually breaking. Like I said, it hasn't broken off completely, but can you definitely see it's getting closer to the steps of break. I'm going to have to be really, really careful when it comes to putting this guy on display. Base-wise for Deadpool, it's pretty simple and simplistic. I mean, not simple in the sense of the way they've sculpted it, but it certainly does have very simple in the way of colors. It's all done nicely here in black. I do like kind of more the intricate look of the display base here, as opposed to just being simply smooth and flat. Adds a little bit of something extra to be looking at it, but at least the black, or at least the way the base has been designed and painted, it doesn't compete your attention for the rest of the statue. Head sculpt is really good on this one. We have seen certainly different versions of Deadpool over the years, especially the one that we're getting now with Ryan Reynolds in the 2 films, now with a third, I think, already been announced. But this one actually kind of reminds me more of Deadpool the way he looked in his earlier appearances in X-Force. I think I still have that issue of the first appearance of Deadpool. He doesn't have as much the point there on the back of his mask. It's actually a little bit more subtle in this case. And he's actually got one thing that's very different about this Deadpool. He's got lines that come out from the back of that point. They'll go to the front of his eyes. You can see there's his eye patches right there. Nothing too extreme, nothing too overly exaggerated when it comes to his eyes. Actually, his eyes are just a very neutral expression. You can see as well, they've detailed where there would have been a nose, certainly where there would have been a mouth. And there's even sections, it seems, to the sides of his cheek. Although I can't quite make out ears, maybe it's just my eyes more playing tricks on me, I can almost even outline those eyes, or outline those ears on the sides of his mask. You can almost even see, yeah, there's the little impression right there. Again, I gotta be really, really careful when it comes coming close, so close to Deadpool, that I don't clip the sword, and I certainly don't clip the back of his holsters here. I really don't want those to break. Coloring, though, for Deadpool is your traditional red and gray. The gray is actually done in such a way it sort of looks like basket weaving. It's nicely handled, although I would almost have said add a little bit of an outline of black here. It's a lot of gray, and even like the outline is also gray. I feel like there could have been an opportunity where they could have done the outlining around the gray in a more darker black, just to make that look really separate from the rest of his costume. Because they've added a lot of airbrushing here of gray, or more of a darker black, it blends, I think, a little bit more to the gray that's off to the side. If they had just outlined a little bit of a black outlining here, I think it would have made the gray more separate from the rest of his body. I do like the little logo they've got, of course, down below here on his belt. Multiple pockets all around the belt, bottom of his belt here. Multiple pockets. They're all seeming to be the exact same pocket. And you've got the additional snaps there on the top painted nicely here in silver. Like, it's a nicely painted figure. If anything, I would probably have said maybe they could have darkened the brown just a little bit, because, again, you've got that really medium brown or medium gray. You've got, like, the black here on the back. Maybe, like, the straps could have been maybe a more richer brown, because the brown is very, very washed out. Not too washed out to the point where it doesn't look like it's been properly painted, but I think it needed to be just a little bit of a darker brown to go better with the lighter gray, and just so it didn't look like the whole front of his torso was more washed out, which is really not the case, but it's just the way that the brown comes across, at least for me. Other than the fact that, of course, the back scabbards here, one of them, I'm going to have to repair that. Other than that, though, at least that's not a part that I'm really going to be seeing here on the statue. I'm more inclined to probably display him from the front. Smart, at least on Diamond's part, that they did actually have the hands being separate parts that attach via magnets. Because I can't imagine what of a struggle this would have been to actually remove out of its baggie with those swords still intact. The thing I still think they should have probably done, though, is have the scabbard as being something that should have attached via magnets the same way as the hands. By having this something that's already attached to the figure, you're going to have to be really, really careful removing this out of the packaging. I thought I was really being careful, but I think the way it was already put inside of the styrofoam in the first place, maybe too much pressure, maybe somebody had pushed it down too far into the tray, that it resulted in the back of the scabbard literally just buckling in against itself. The other sides are fine, and I'm actually surprised that the longer ones that stick further away from his body still remain generally unharmed. It's just this one right here that's been, like I said, it's got a little bit of a fracture line right there. I'm going to see if maybe if I can fix that. Other than that, though, it's a nice looking Deadpool. And again, I like what I like about this Deadpool, even though he is missing his lower half, is that it kind of then, again, reminds me more of the X-Force Deadpool. Deadpool, when I was more interested in the character before he became more mainstream. Now, of course, we got Deadpool on everything now, 2 feature films with another one soon to follow. I do like the fact that Deadpool now is a popular character, that he has hit Hollywood, but I always liked the more traditional roots, the bare basics of Deadpool back in the day when he was still following through the pages of X-Force. That figure, or this statue, I think looks a little bit more like the X-Force Deadpool, and maybe one of the more reasons why I like this statue so much. Now, obviously, I would have to stress that the stress developed on the back of the scabbard for my Deadpool may only just be mine. You may have already noticed at the beginning of the review when I was doing that unboxing of this statue that the tape was already removed on the sides of the tray. It could have been a case also that Diamond had already used this sample before, the one that they sent my way, and maybe through the process of whatever had happened before I got my hands on it was the reasoning for why that scabbard had to break. But still, though, looking at solely the figure and statue that I had here presented to me by Diamond, I have to, of course, be honest, and looking at the way they've handled the back of the scabbard, while I do like the detailing done to it, it should have really been a separate piece. It worked so well for the hands holding the katanas, they should have also followed the same suit and done the exact same thing for the scabbard for the very same reason as what we just discussed in this review. The fact that one of them got buckled, maybe too much pressure, somebody had put it back, maybe somebody had already had a look at this sample, put it back in the tray, and they put too much pressure down in it. It didn't break completely, but you can definitely see there's the start of a breakage happening on the back of the scabbard. Other than that, though, big thank you, to the folks over at Dahmm Life that did provide this sample of the Deadpool resin bust that we could have a look at in this video. What do you guys think of Deadpool? Let me know down below in the comments section, and certainly if you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like. If you've loved the content you're seeing and certainly want to stick around for more, then hit the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell notification on so you're going to get those reminders every single time a new video pops up. And then popping up at the very end of this video will also be a playlist of other Diamond Select stuff I've looked at over the years, with many more to follow. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.